All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Flame. Welcome to the Master Motivation Meets Real Talk with Mark Cox. So, Mr. Cox, thanks for being a guest today. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. All right. Let's see what happens.
Hey, so if you guys are watching right now, drop us a quick comment. Let us know that you're here. And a quick reminder of what the Master Motivation Show is all about. So back in 2020, we obviously all faced the effects of the pandemic. And as I was making my goals for 2021, I said, well, there's a lot of negativity on social media, and what could we do to bring out some more positivity? And I was reminded how many people in my life have inspired me and motivated me. And so I started doing the interviews every Monday at noon, and it took me a bit to get Mr. Cox scheduled, but here we are. This is our second go around on an interview. We did one on the school video probably a year ago, but anyway, so Mr. Cox, guys, for those of you that know me and know him, know that we're not only great friends, but he's a great mentor to me. My first memory of Mr. Cox, so this goes back. My first memory was
Oh
at
boy.
the
Mm-mm.
1986 martial arts ballet. Mr. Cox was a green belt, larger than life, does a demo, and I'm like, I like that style. I like that energy. I've always loved that. And then, of course, as time went on, I was asked to come and teach at Chatsworth Karate. That was a huge honor because I had just earned my black belt and didn't know who was going to take a chance on me, helping teach their students in their school. Mr. Cox took a chance on me, and I learned so much by teaching at Chatsworth Karate. And as a matter of fact, Tang Soo Do University and Moore Park Karate and Krav Maga now carries on so many of the traditions that I learned from Mr. Cox, a lot of the values. So that's my intro for you, sir. I'm
Uh,
excited to have you.
that's a lot. That's a lot. That's
Well,
good. Looking forward to it.
we got about 7 people, guys. If you're watching, drop some comments and you can ask Mr. Cox questions and we'll just kind of go through.
Ask
So
me anything.
for those of you that don't know Mr. Cox really well, why don't we start just kind of childhood memories, growing up, mom, dad, brother, sister. Start with kind of the basics and we'll work from there.
Yeah. Some people don't know I have a sister. I guess. Everybody knows my brother Dave. Dave and I are the ones that started Tang Soo Do together back in the day. Lucky for me, I still have my folks with me. Cliff and Kitty are still very much active. So I'm very lucky to have my folks with me. My folks were married very young, 18 and 16, believe it or not. My mom was 16 when she married my dad. My dad was 18. And they're still together today after 60 years of marriage. So still holding hands and eating popcorn and watching movies at the house. So it's been good. My brother Dave he was a pastor for a while. Everybody knows he was a cop. He's still a cop, but a reserve cop. But he is now the CEO of Zoe for human trafficking. He's the one that's in charge of what they've built, the facility out here. We've got to go do some self-defense with the faculty there and what that's going to look like when they extract kids and bring them here to get them out of human trafficking. So that's what Dave's doing now. And, my sister lives in Simi with me, and she's an avid photographer. And and her husband, of course, is a black belt in Tang Soo Do also. That's where it all came from. So that's my story of my family.
Yeah, your parents are a huge inspiration to you. I know just the relationship that you have, you hold them in such high regard and have a lot of respect for their relationship and the lessons and values that they instilled in you. Talk about growing up as a child and some of the things that they taught you and that you really remember.
Mm. Well, my dad's the workhorse. My dad, as long as I can remember, he's always had a job. He's a blue collar. He was a machinist, and even up until lately, you've also seen my dad's just an artist too. He can hand carve wood, make them look. He can hand carve owls out of wood, and he paints. And my dad was a photographer when he was a young man too, and he was a machinist for years and years. And I followed in his footsteps there until I opened up my school. But he's got, my dad's always been a man of integrity. I've watched it. I've watched him not waver from his moral standings on what was right and what is wrong. I watched him run his own companies. I watched him put his own employees before himself. I remember watching him pay employees before he'd ever even take a paycheck himself. So I've always kind of watched my dad as far as that goes. And my mom, I don't know. It's hard to find a woman like my mom. She's one of those old fashioned type of wives. You know, our house was immaculately clean, and if you've been to my mom's, she can cook. You know, and I remember, and my mom still does it today. She's like, "Oh, Dad's coming home soon. I want to go fix my hair and stuff like that," and made sure that she's always put together when my dad came home. It's just who she was. My mom's that way today. That's how I remember growing up, and so I had these old school values, and it just carried on to what it is today. So yeah, I you can't be 60 years in marriage and still be in love and hold hands on the couch and eat popcorn and M&Ms together and not have done something right.
Yeah. No, I'm always amazed. I love uh, following them on Facebook and social media and seeing the posts, and I've seen them in person. It's an amazing relationship that they have, and it's shaped you a little bit in the way that with your kids and the values that you wanted to teach them. So
Yeah, for sure.
so now remind me again, because I know we talked
Mhm.
about this the last time, but you grew up where?
Well, I we were always in the valley, so I was in Encino for a while. But I went to school in North Hollywood from third grade to ninth grade. I went to a private Lutheran school
Hmm.
named St. Paul's, and then from there I went to Reseda High School. And so that's where we've my mom and dad still have that home in I guess it would be called Tarzana
Hmm.
now. So that's where I was in Encino, Tarzana. I was born in Panorama City, so I mean I've been pretty much just a valley guy for as
Yeah.
long as we can know.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, maybe out of state, San Fernando Valley, Southern California area.
Hmm.
I mean, it was in your day growing up. I mean, that's when it was just getting started, and now it's just booming. I mean, it's one of the largest areas in the Los Angeles County.
I mean, I remember as a kid there wasn't a Burbank Boulevard. I'm sure you've driven Burbank Boulevard. It was
Hmm.
a dirt. It was all dirt. I drove. I rode bikes in
Right.
that lane. There was no 118 freeway either going over to see me. There was just a
Yeah.
pass. You know what I mean? So yeah, the years tick by really quick, Jay. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember where I grew up. It's the same. I think a lot of people have that same story, remembering where
Yeah.
they grew up and how much it's changed over the
Hmm.
yees. It's funny you talk about riding bikes and getting out there on motorcycles, ATVs, and stuff like that. I can remember as young kids we could just ride wherever the heck we wanted, and nowadays that's just never going to happen, right?
No, it's just a different. I don't know. It's just different. I think I'm glad and I'm blessed that I did not grow up with social media and these type of phones that do what they do. You know what I mean? If it was up to me, I just go back to pagers so I can talk to who I want to and then ignore who I need to.
Yeah,
Um,
pagers were
but
cool.
now we listen. Oh, we can talk about something and our phone will send us a ad on what we were just talking about. You want to buy this? It's just different. I,
It
I
is
I played
scary.
I played sports. I played basketball, and that's what we did. And I played karate. We did karate. I played karate. I did karate. On Friday nights we'd fight and we'd sit and talk for 3 hours, and then we would, I'd play. I used to love to play pickup basketball games, and we played mud ball every October in CSUN when the rains hit. So that's just how I grew up.
Yeah,
It was
it is.
awesome.
It is definitely a different time, and I think that your parents will tell you stories of how, as they grew up, it was a different time, right? It's always each generation is a different time. I mean,
Yeah,
one of the benefits too of technology now is look at us here, right? We're able to broadcast a live interview and chit chat and share our stories online, where 20 years
yeah.
ago,
We couldn't
we
even.
wouldn't be
Yeah,
doing
we
that.
wouldn't even be able to do this. I mean, that is the other thing. I mean, it's amazing what we can do today, and the benefits of something like this is where we can stay connected. Where back in the time, maybe that was a disadvantage. We really didn't have a connection because we'd either have to drive forever to get there or whatever that looked like, and it's just not. Now we can keep connected with the family and everything else. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, long distance relationships were you know uh, you'd have to go travel to go see, family or whoever.
Mm.
Now we jump on Zoom or jump on the StreamYard
Yeah.
and go from there. John, I'm going to get to your question in just a second because we'll definitely be talking about some martial arts stories for sure. Um, you brought this up and we glossed over it a little bit, but kids growing up now and your parents having the relationship that they had as they were growing up. What do you think? I mean, is social media, is technology? Do you feel that's the reason for the decline in some of the things that we see and the values that you see?
Well, I guess, Jay, when you look at the documentary that Netflix put out on all the guys that did social media, all the social media acolytes, why do they not allow their children to have social media? None of them
Mhm.
do.
Right.
I can't remember what that documentary is, if you remember it on the top of your head, but Netflix had it out about social media and all the social media giants and how they speak about they wouldn't let any of their children have social media up until high school, maybe.
Right.
And so, um, do I feel it's a downfall for 100% because y- you live life on likes. You don't live life to live life. You live to see how many likes you get, and they talk about, we've taught for a long time, but they talk about it being like a sugar, right? And you have a little
Hmm.
bit of sugar, and your brain just kind of gets off. You see those likes, and I'm sure if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we're the same way, right? You're not going to say that we don't like seeing our likes. Oh, how
Hmm.
many people watched us today, or how many likes did I
Right.
get on that? What was the comments I had on that? And or why didn't I get as many today? What did I do wrong? What was the thing? And it could be a bunch of nothing wrong. It's just people are busy today. Sorry,
Right.
the world doesn't revolve around you. You know what I mean? So it's the quick gratifications. I
Yep.
think that is another downfall. And I'm just as guilty. I talk about it, but I'm just as guilty as anybody else because I like real positive I like real feedback though, when it
Hmm.
comes to if I'm doing my photos or my photography, I like to have feedback. My skin is thick. So if you think it sucks or what can make it better, then I'm always open. And I always do find how easy it is to criticize people more than praise them,
Sure.
you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, the instant gratification I think is right, hitting it right on the head. That's what it is. I can remember actually Maddie would tell me that she would delete pictures on her Instagram account because it didn't get like 300 more than 300 likes. I'm like, I don't even get 50 likes on my picture. like you want 300? Like that's just nuts. And Jackie and I were just we were watching people post last night. A relative or a friend of a relative, and I was just like, man, like people will go to any extreme just to get that. Like people want so badly to be liked or needed or feel special, and they're relying on social media versus the people that are right there in front of them, their family, their close friends. They're reaching out because, like you said, it's like sugar. Like you just once you have a little taste, you want a little more, a little more, a
right.
little more. It just continues from there.
For sure.
So yeah, so let's talk about martial arts. You were a big football player in high school, and you did some powerlifting as well. You're still a huge fan of, working out and training hard. Very few people really like that real heavy lifting anymore. I think there's so much more about CrossFit or, different stuff like that. And that's all good. I mean, working out is working out, but I mean, I know you like to lift heavy. What is it about lifting heavy and doing that I mean, just really speaks to you?
The weight room part. It's more
Yep.
than just a lift and heavy, right? I like the. Unfortunately, even my home gym, I made sure that I had all iron weights. I like the sound of the iron clanging. I I like making my muscles so fatigued that I can't make it work because in the moment, right? In that particular moment, there's nothing on my mind outside of just being able to get this weight up or this personal record up and over my chest, or if I'm benching or shoulder press, and if I speak to guys out there, I got a lot of stuff that rolls around in my head. All right. And I'm constantly bombarded from, and you're a lot like I am. All right. So we've got podcasts, and we've got every other second is an event that we have to deal with. Okay. Every
Hmm.
testing or whatever. And so it's kind of like a haven. I like to put the music on. And believe it or not, I'm not one of those guys when I'm lifting that like to hear that. I have a motivational one where they're kind of talking through what it takes to be a winner, that type of music, and some good, country music that I like to hear. And I just kind of get lost in that, and I get excited about lifting, and it just, it deals with demons in your head that that physical, some people like to take Zoloft. I like to push 315 pounds up on a bench press. That gives me the high. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? You know what I mean? And I remember, it sucks. I mean, there's good and bad about that. I mean, I remember when I was a younger man, it was so much easier for me to do, but there's something about being 60 years old and being able to push 300 pounds up. It makes me still feel that I have a purpose and my life is still moving forward, and I'm not going to be one of those guys, around in a walker. I'm
Hmm.
just not going to do that. So I'm trying to set examples for younger guys to keep on and push on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the first thing that I do every day is I if I don't go to the gym first before my appointments, before my calls, before, call it work, whatever, um,
Mhm.
my day is just off. And I just feel that the gym is that place that like everything gets tuned out for a minute. It's my time. I mean, I got the headphones on and I'll play podcasts, I'll play music. I sometimes love to hear the hardcore music. I don't know why I like to lift heavy, but I like to think that it's because I like the challenge because
Mhm.
I'm wearing my 75 hard shirt.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
didn't really tell anybody yet, but I started phase 1 again today. So I love those challenges. It's always great to
Yeah.
push ourselves. Um, you and I have talked about this many times, and it's that struggle of being at our age now, where you look back at being in your teens and your 20s, and you used to be able to do this, or you used to be able to do that, or like I mean, we can kick and move quick and do all those different things, and now. I mean, sometimes I look in the mirror and I go, man, I'm just a shell of what I used to be. It's kind of
Uh-huh.
hard, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I think that's in my head. I mean, this is just me personally. I can't, I can't speak for everybody, but I know most older men, when uh, when you're young, though, you have the world by the balls. Okay. But as you get older, you know, things that meant a lot to me don't really mean anything to me. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Things that used to impress me don't impress me anymore. And then I feel that sometimes as an older guy that I have missed the boat because I didn't that I had this opportunity to really do something in training wise, whether it's like in my Brazilian jiu-jitsu journey right now. I really had the opportunity when I was a lot more stable with my knees and to really do something with it. And I didn't. I didn't do it because I always thought I had plenty of time. So I think that I think that as an older, as I sit back and look at myself on what is it that uh, I think this is why I continue to challenge in myself because I don't want to be sitting and and going on to I go on to the next thing. So what's my next challenge? It was 75 hard. Then it was phase 1. Then it was phase 2. Then it was bringing you guys in to make you do it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Watch you guys succeed, and then it's Krav Maga, and then bring you guys along. Make sure I teach you guys how to do it, and watch your studios and things. And I get to kind of live through that, and it just continues a purpose. I think that one thing that I've done from teaching military and police, and just men in general. I speak to men now on this because I've just lived this. I really, as a young man, you were around me. I was a fighter, man. I was the pit bull. It is what I love to do. And when you have something tragic happen, when I get blood clots and then I have to have blood thinners and I can't fight, right? I believe that I lost my purpose as a warrior. This is really where my head was at, right? So I've lost my purpose as a warrior, and I've watched military guys be in charge of teams and busting doors down and doing what they do, and then they're back home with their family and they have like zero purpose. Like, what is my purpose? My purpose is a warrior. What is it now? So I feel that same thing. And then, until Brazilian Jiu Jitsu came around where I could feel like, hey, I get that. I feel a sense of purpose again. And I feel, that I can be a warrior again. So this is just like in my head. This is how I thought. It's my thought processing and why it's important for me to continue on that way as an older, man. Now, I definitely don't know, Jay, if we are a shell of what we used to be, because if I might have been physically able to do a lot more things, but I could kill you a lot easier today. You know what I mean?
I'll agree with that. I'll
Okay,
agree with that.
it's just it's that weird balance of life, right? It's that, gosh, where was my wisdom when I had youth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, or now that I have all this wisdom, where's my youth? God just didn't design it that way. He designed gray hair to do what it does, is to produce wisdom and figure things out. The difference between being fast and being quick. I mean, fast is a young man's game. Quick is a smart man's game. And you know what I mean? So being efficient, right? On the mat, you're going to carry that over to the life, right? You're going to be efficient in life, right? So if I know that my punch is in a straight line and I've done that punch 1,000,000 times, that thing's going to be straight as an arrow and I can be as slow as I want. But when it hits you, oh man, you're going to remember it. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing in life, right? If we keep our elbows up and we have a wrong punch, it takes forever to get to A to B. But the wiser you are, things just in life become a little bit easier. You know what I mean? You've seen a lot of stuff in our planes. I've buried students. I've carried caskets. I've carried kids' caskets to the grave. I've signed Nathan Carlin's marriage certificate. I've held brand new babies that were being born. This is what life is, man. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, you brought something up that I I think at some point everybody starts to think the same way. The things that meant so much to you before, or the things that impressed you before, don't impress you now, right? The things you thought about
yeah.
then, you don't waste your time. Um, Speak to that a little bit about some of the things that you spent time and energy on that now it's a whole new ball game.
Mm. Well, I think probably competing, right? Gosh, could you imagine if I had Facebook when I was competing? I'd be looking for those likes all day long and smashing things and traveling all over the place to compete and that was my life for a while. You know what I mean? Getting world champions in the NBL and then getting the embroidered jacket that says world champion. I got all that stuff.
Hmm.
And most of my students don't even know I have it because who really cares? I cared. It meant something to me when I was doing it because I'm testing my fortitude against somebody else. Okay, I'm testing my will against somebody else, and that's really what the game was. And so I think chasing the championships in the karate world, it's different. If I was in an MMA fight and I was kind of chasing that title to be that number one fighter, but this is karate tournaments back in the day where this is what I lived and it took me around the world. I mean, around the States, to break. I saw, Chip and stuff like that. I was on every once in a while. You'll catch me on ESPN way back in the days in the early '90s when I was breaking. I'm in Florida,
Hmm.
so. Those are the kind of things. All the trophies I had, they don't mean nothing to me anymore. What means more to me now is when I tied black belts around my son, who was bullied for most of all of his life and lost 100 pounds and changed his life. Both my sons, Michael and Danny, Gabe's now practicing himself to become black belt next year. He's going to finish off what he started. But those are the things that mean something to me today, not what my NBL belt that says first place or whatever. Whatever other stupid shit that we did. But back then, I think that's chasing that is one thing that. Now, would I change anything? I say that now because I'm just older and I look back on things. I wouldn't change that I did all that. You
Right.
were at my very first breaking. The very
Yep.
first time I ever did it, you were there. holding
Hmm.
for me at a tournament. The first time I decided to try this breaking game before I became world champion at it, or whatever the world title. I mean, think about it, world champion. I mean, there's nobody out there that can smash things like I did. Uh, but that's, I wouldn't discount that because it gave me a sense of purpose back then that I
Hmm.
needed, I guess, at that particular time in my life, which doesn't mean as much to me now in this particular time in my life.
Right. Do you remember? Are there any defining moments that changed that mindset where it just didn't you accomplished what you wanted to accomplish, or it just didn't matter, something else took the place? Because I think as we go through life, that happens several times. Our
Hmm.
priorities change, our focus change, our purpose changes. Can you remember any defining moments that you just said, "I'm good. It's time to move on"?
Well, you know, uh, having Ariel for one, having my daughter,
Hmm.
that changed a lot of things because having a girl was just a different thing for me. And then, if to be completely honest, I think divorce was a defining moment on what was important to me and what was not anymore. So, what was important then was not tournaments anymore. It's me becoming a single dad. That was a defining moment. I could care less about tournaments at that point. And I had to worry about how am I going to raise all these children? Because you guys know I was the dad that was involved. I wasn't the weekend dad. I raised my kids. So it's just I think that was probably the most defining moment in my as far as personal life goes.
Hmm.
What was it physical wise? What changed everything and all the back in tournaments and all that? Phase one, Krav Maga training. Phase A. Going through a week of that training and realizing I have never done anything this hard in my entire life. Okay. And I have to talk myself into doing this and not being a quitter was a defining moment for me that this is what's important. And then, wow, I have all these black belts and they would all get shot in the face today because we didn't know anything to teach that back then. We had no clue. Stupid knife stuff that we wasted time on. And that was physically in the martial, that was a defining moment for me as phase A training.
Those are two, I mean, two pivotal moments that will kind
Mm-hmm.
of go off. How did how did divorce affect you as a man, as a person, and your confidence in yourself?
Well, I think divorce, and I'm not speaking for all men, but I know men. I know how we feel. So we feel that we failed. So, regardless of how hard it was in the home, me trying to keep things together, it was a failure. Okay. And so, in my mind, I failed at this thing, whether, whatever happened inside the home or whose fault it was, you know, all that personal stuff, that wasn't that doesn't make as much as what goes on in my head. It's just I failed as a dad and a husband. So I thought I think that's the biggest thing,
Yeah.
you know.
And how did it change you as a dad? Because for years you have a wife to help you. Now you don't. Now you're that single dad that's got to take on all the responsibility.
Well, I think that's what helped the most. Uh it made me a better father. My divorce made me a super dad. Okay. Now, that it made me be a better father and a better man as far as what's going to be in what I had to do. Uh, and I'm super lucky that we had a martial arts school, so I could be at all these kids' functions, and I could be the dad that goes and takes them on field trips and do all the stuff that it was, and me taking them to school, picking them up, driving them from Simi Valley to El Camino, all of my kids every day. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? It just I was built for that. I was built for the challenge. And in the moment, Jay, you don't think about things. You just do. It's
Right.
just this is my responsibilities. This is what I'm going to do, and it is what it is. And so that's just how it went. And so I think that as a dad, you you know, my whole goal is, can my kids survive on their own, and am I going to give them the skills that they need for that? And divorce just kind of happens to make that happen. How you guys grew up with your kids is way different than mine. My kids were having to do their own laundry at 7 years old. Okay.
Hmm.
And Dad, I can't do everything. Guys, we just have a different life, and we're just going to have to strap on, and this is how we live life. And then having a martial arts school. I mean, can you imagine, right? I mean, you already know how hard it is for us we don't have family dinners. We don't have that kind of stuff.
Right.
Right. In the beginning. So my kids were down here, and we're having dinner here, and me trying to run home and put them to bed, and Michael's having to help, and Gabe has to help because they're the two oldest. And as we grow them, it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? In the moment, you don't think about it. When you look back on it, and when you look back on your life, you're like, how the frick did I do that,
Right.
man?
Right.
Okay. You know what I mean? But I don't know. God does not give you anything that you cannot handle. And I'm just a firm believer in that. And I was built to handle it, and I handled it.
Well, let's talk about
So
your kids a little bit, and tell me, and tell everybody watching. What are some of the proudest moments, or the things that you're most proud of each one of your children?
first of all, if I'm not a college graduate, and not that I pushed any of my children to go to college, but Michael has a bachelor's of science degree. I mean, of course, it was in recreational management, so he get to cliff dive and have this time of his life. You know what I mean? And he went through school, and he came out, debt free. He's not he didn't start his life in some solid debt. That's one. Ariel just got her associate's degree. Daniel just got an associate's degree and moving on to CSUN. And Gabriel's in the midst of his now. He decided to go back to school. So watching my kids try and have some kind of purpose is one. I think that's one. Michael getting married, and watching my children have to grow up in a divorce home. You know how I am with my own folks. I didn't have to deal with that.
Hmm.
I don't even know what that was. I don't even know what that looks like.
Right.
But that's not how my kids' reality is. And so, I remember, and I tell my sons all the time, and my daughter. Okay, I tell my daughter all the time, you need to look for a man that's a lot like your dad. Okay, and not that's like an eagle. You know what I mean? When they choose mates, you got to look for that. And the female chooses her mate wisely on how he can provide for a family and everything else. She looks at these things. And if you ever watch how they mate, right? And then I've always told my sons, you got to find a soulmate in life, that you can spend your life with, that it's going to be your best friend, a lover, a best friend, and a confidant. And that's number one, is going to respect you when you come home. That respects the work that you do. Because I do know this, as a man, we're pretty simple. If we feel respected in our home, we will go out as a warrior and take a bullet for somebody. But if you go home and you're barraged and you don't have respect, and they don't respect what you do, all your hard work you do, it's just a different animal, right?
Hmm.
So that's one thing I tell all my sons. So I think that's one thing they've all done is move on to this school, and then getting their life back. Michael losing 100 pounds. People don't even know Michael was that heavy at one time.
Hmm.
I mean, the divorce messed up a lot of things, right? Eating pizza and having this quick life does not help with your physicality. And then dad probably being depressed and pissed off 90% of the time didn't help out, right? And so him getting his life back, Daniel going from being extremely bullied in school to to taking a fifth place in a 5K with 1,500 people. I mean, I'll never forget that day, because
Hmm.
I'm getting ready to see where my son is, and I'm like, they said, oh, we got new winners coming in, and I look in the distance, here comes Daniel in the fifth place,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh my gosh, he's already he's already won. You know what I mean? and then or Gabriel graduating from MI on sound engineering, going after what they love, and then I got Ariel. So I don't know, I what just watching them do their thing. Your kids are no different. I
Yeah.
see your proud dad moment. Your son's out there kicking everybody's ass on the freaking wrestling mat and stuff like that, and we're living through that, just going, let's go, let's go, and watching your daughter, and she don't your daughter don't take no, she don't take no nothing, bro. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So it's good. That strong head, it's that strong independent female is going to be awesome one day. My
Yeah.
daughter's the same way. She don't take much shit, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's nothing like being a dad. There's
mm,
no other, in my opinion,
mm,
there is nothing else I could do in life that is better than that feeling, um, along with being a great husband. But I mean, I've been teaching martial arts a long time. You've been teaching martial arts a long time. We've coached this, coached that, had friends, but there's nothing that is more rewarding than watching your kids succeed or your kids' happiness, and nothing hurts more than watching them,
oh
their
yeah,
sadness and their heartbreak, right? I
no,
mean,
yeah.
that's just,
Yeah, I've had to deal with that too. I'm sure, same thing. You're a super dad, dude. You're a good dad, and it's fun to watch you with your kids, and just how proud that is, that moment. I wouldn't give up giving a dad. I wouldn't give up being a dad for nobody.
no,
Mm-mm,
no.
no way.
By far my favorite position in life is being a dad and watching their success and just going through. People would ask me, and I'm sure you can agree with this. What was the best part about your kids growing up? And for me, it was all of it. Like when they were babies and then they're starting to go to school, then they're going in. Yeah, I mean, there's always the challenges that come along with it, but like every phase, I don't remember terrible twos. I don't remember thinking that way. I just thought like this is a cool time. And it
Uh
just,
huh.
I mean, even now watching them become adults, and your kids are growing a little more than mine. It's just watching them become their own person and doing their
Yeah,
own things.
it's good. I mean, I've had some very serious come to Jesus talks with my kids, and Michael having a real sit down talk with me one time and saying, "I'm not you, Dad. I'm telling you one thing. I'm going to do these vacations. I'm a workaholic, man. A workaholic is what I did." And Michael says, Dad, I am going to go on vacation with my wife. I'm just telling you."
Hmm.
And I remember having these conversations with him, right? And adult conversations now. It's just a different, you know, it's just different.
Well, and
I've liked every stage of it, man.
yeah. Yeah,
So
our kids like our students. They learn from us in two ways. They learn what to do and they will learn what not to do,
that's
right?
right. Yeah.
I mean, and that's all good, So
Mhm.
let's get back, let's talk about you a little bit because you talked about your kids dealing with their weight and losing tons of weight. You've been on a a, a journey, of so many different facets, whether it was the 75 hard or just training and losing weight. You've lost a ton of weight yourself. Talk about what that's been like for you because Dane's watching on here, and that Dane is on his weight loss journey and his health journey, getting taking his life back. What's
Mhm.
that been like for you, and how did that feel as a younger person coming up? How did that affect your life?
Well, how did it affect my life? That's good. How did my weight affect my life? That's a loaded question. You know, it probably stopped me from doing a lot of things in life. I'm not sure people knew that. If I've told you the story, but originally when I was 18 years old, I really wanted to go in the Coast Guard. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but I wanted to be in the Coast Guards, and I wanted to be a cop on the water. I don't know, I was a young man, and I saw these Coast Guard boats coming in San Pedro or something. They had all these pot leaves on the side of the boat, right? And I had asked the one guy, so what's all those mean? And he goes, these are how many pot boats that we have busted. I said, man, I want to do that. And so 18, I took an ASVAB test, and I did okay. And it wasn't great, but I did okay. I mean, the Army was like, come on in, you know what I mean? And but the Coast Guard was a little bit more stringent, and uh it said that you're going to have some lose some weight. And now the Army was like, you can just come on in, you're good to go. And so that was the first thing, right? That was the very first thing that where it went downhill, right? if I look back on life on where these things kept barraging me. So that was my first like punch in the gut that you failed that, bro. And the next was after that, I had a big dream to be a homicide detective. That's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a coroner, believe it or not, originally,
Mm.
until I went and saw an autopsy done. And I'm like, that's a hard pass because I cannot do that. I
That's
cannot
brutal.
be cutting up children. And I was always intrigued. I guess it's just my sheepdog nature on finding scumbags that kill people or that kind of thing. It's just always kind of nature. And you know, I didn't have anybody pushing me right for that, and it just went to the wayside. I never did it. So then when the weight comes on, and before you know it, it's. I mean, you've looked back, even when I did martial arts in the beginning, right? I mean, I remember a couple things vividly. Like when I look back on my stuff now, just how dogged I got on the mat, right? And oh Cox, he can't jump. I mean, you've seen my tape, you've seen me at Greenbelt. I mean, I don't know how much higher you want me to jump for crying out loud.
Right.
You know what I mean? Uh, I'm cracking Jeff Washington with a hook kick in the face. I mean,
And that
how
dude
much
was like
high?
6'4".
Right. And I'm just like, I look back on it now and said, I was so criticized back then, and it was behind doors. And, I look back on it now. Of course, I was criticized because I kicked the shit out of all of them all the time. You know what I mean? When it come to fighting, that you couldn't hold a candle to me. And so you went after something like that. So it was always kind of a little bit demeaning, you know? I don't know. I remember getting belts tied around me one time too. I think Mr. I had said, "Hey, pretty soon this will be a size 4 or a size 5, whatever it was."
Mhm.
This is what I remember, not what I got that day. This is what I remember, right? And so it's always been this monkey on my back. And I think, to be honest with you, Jay, that's probably why I did breaking, because I found something that being big, of course, everybody expects you to smash everything or lift heavy weights. Of course, I like powerlifting because I get to lift heavy stuff and I didn't have to really worry about diet or nothing like that. Uh, and then I went and lifted heavy stuff. I mean, back then, dude, I was squatting 625 pounds, and I used to watch the bar just bend, and I used to just give me this rush, and people were like in awe of it, right? That was my likes back then. I guess that was my Facebook likes back then, is in the gym, people going, "Oh my gosh," right? And so I guess I found these two things, and then it just continued on. Even, it's unusual to have, what would I guess what would be called a fat karate instructor. You don't think I deal with that every time somebody comes in? I mean, I dealt with it from day one at Mr. Eyes to whatever until you had to stand in front of me, and then I was the fastest fat guy you've ever seen. And I guess that's just what motivated me through things. And so you fast forward through things, and Uh, I have this major thing happen to me where I get a blood clot from doing a seminar at your school. You know
Of
what I
all
mean?
things, of
Right?
all things.
On a simple, bro, a simple groin kick. I just hit wrong on the bag and it swelled my leg up, and it just happened to get a blood clot. And then when you're in the hospital and saying you got 2 blood clots in your lungs, now I'm going to be honest with you, dude. I was probably sitting there. I I don't know. I don't know what I weighed back then, but you know, it's easily in the 375. And I'm not sure if that was my lowest weight. I'm going to be honest with you, because in the hospital, I didn't even think about weight loss at the time. I mean, these guys are hounded me, right?
Mhm.
The cardiologists and this, and you can die, and the whole 9 yards, and me trying to put on the happy born to win face, and having to face this, right? And so I had to make some decisions there. And believe it or not, it took that happened in February, and Michael was married in June. And I remember being at Michael's wedding, And you've seen pictures of me at that wedding, how big I was. I was probably
Mhm.
bigger than, I don't know. I could have been 385. I don't know. It could, what it really was, right? And so I remember being at the wedding going, I'm so lucky to even be here. And I wasn't making healthy choices because in my head, every time something happened, I was afraid I'm going to have a stroke. You know what I mean? That was my big fear. I didn't fear dying. I feared stroke, and I'm like, man, I just don't want that. You might as well just take a gun to my head, take me out. And so once that settled down after Michael's wedding, I don't remember what it was, but I remember the defining moment when I was sitting at home. I have a CPAP machine on. I have a breathing apparatus so I can sleep at night. So here we go. Your blood clots and you're at CPAP and you've got blood pressure medicine and you got blood clots, blood thinners. You can't do what you want. I have no warrior mindset anymore because I can't do nothing, you know? And every time I move, I'm afraid that something's happening in my heart or in my head. This is what's going on for 6 months. And that one night I was laying there and I was petrified. And I said, Lord, are you taking me home? I said, don't give me a stroke, man. Just take me home. Don't stroke me out. And I thought I was going to die that night. And so the next morning is where I made a change. And I said, I didn't tell anybody. I told nobody. I just said, I'm going to make this change. And I started looking. And that's when Jay Walker was on this quest of this keto diet and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And I watched Jay win this. You saw Jay, what he went to, right?
Yep.
And I saw him
Yep.
win this. And I went to him in confidence and I said, hey. And he goes, you can do this. And so I started. And that's how I started it. And then I didn't say anything. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't post nothing. I just, I thought, yeah, I'm just going to strike this up for another failure anyway. But then all of a sudden it started kicking in and people are starting to ask, hey, and when you lose 50 pounds, you get people asking. When you lose 100 pounds, people are like, okay, what's the deal? Or are you
Mhm.
sick? That's why. Are you
Right.
sick? You got cancer? What? So that's what went down. That's how it went down. This is my mindset of how it went. And then I came to a decision that I said, I'm not living life this way. I'm not going to live that every time something happens or whatever, I'm not doing it. And now, of course, I'm off some of the medications now. I don't use a CPAP anymore. I can't even use that thing anymore. It like blows me into oblivion when I try it now. But, and so, it's struggle. Everybody asks, is it hard? No, it sucks. It sucks every day. Okay. I know people look at me as an inspiration and stuff like that, but let me tell you something. It's embrace the suck every day. Okay. I don't have a good relationship with food. I know you guys really enjoy eating and stuff like that. So is my girl. Kat loves it, man. But I don't go out to eat to enjoy to eat. I just don't enjoy it. Food's always been kind of a crutch for me. So I don't like it. You know what I mean? I don't enjoy it. And she does, they do. And so it's this love-hate relationship you want to have. And so I just gave up stuff. I mean, I haven't had sugar in goes to 2.5 years now. Okay. I mean, I just don't eat sugar anymore.
Mhm.
And I keep my carbs and I've never not kept my carbs. I haven't had pasta and bread and none of that stuff for 2.5 years. I live on a keto lifestyle and that's just what I do. And I saw Dane ask, how do you deal with plateaus, right? When you cross during your weight loss journey, sometimes they can be very discouraging and frustrating, especially when injuries are involved. How do you keep your head in the game? Well, one thing I do for myself, because, Dane, if you're listening, there was a 7-month time I didn't lose 1 ounce. Now, I didn't gain any weight. I didn't gain anything during the pandemic or anything. I didn't gain weight. And then, I don't know, 8 weeks ago, I stepped on a scale and there was an 8-pound weight gain. I was so pissed off, right? I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? When I don't cheat, I don't do nothing. Now, I didn't take into account, I mean, you can see that how much more defined and stuff I am, for my lifting. I probably put on, I don't know how much muscle, but, there's a lot of muscle underneath all this fat somewhere. That I do know. And so what I do, Dane, is it's not a thought process for me. Okay. This is how I live my life and this is how it is. And so I made some adjustments. Dane, and this is just now. So if you've seen me now, if you've seen a picture of me 30 days ago, because I did that phase just like you did, I was on 75 hard. I was doing it. It was some bullshit. I just did it because somebody else is doing it. And I just quit doing it. And I said, I'm just doing phase one. And I'm going to change some things. And I changed my intermittent fasting, and I changed, I will not eat past 7 o'clock. And I put in a little bit of cardio, not a lot. I wasn't doing hardly any cardio outside of my jujitsu. So I did some walking, 20 minutes of walking. That's it. And then all of a sudden I see the scale start to dip. And that's where I'm at now. So I was on a hiatus for six months or so. I've seen other people that just lose massive amounts of weight. That's just doesn't happen to be
It's
where
super
I'm at.
frustrating too.
It sucks.
It kills me because I don't lose weight quickly. It's got to be, I have to change habits and be consistent for lengths of time. I
Mm-hmm.
have gone like this, for the last 20 years. I mean, and consistency is probably the one thing that I always have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Whether it's the food or it's the workout or whatever, and you got to stick with it. And Dane, Dane is pretty damn consistent as far as his workouts. He's just suffering through some injuries now, which we both know how that
Yeah.
sucks.
What's the beauty about injuries, dude, is a swimming pool. A swimming pool will give you the best jump turning heel kicks and side kicks and everything else because your weight doesn't do anything. So when
Right.
you're injured and you can jump into a pool, you can swim and you can get past injuries. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so wow, my old training partner's on here. Hey Conrad, how you doing, brother?
I had to put it up there because I didn't
Hey.
know he was watching, Mr. Colano. I mean,
Hey, sir.
we'll have to
Um
talk about stories in a minute.
yeah. And so this is just where I am. And so I still struggle today, man. You know how frustrating it is to be doing on my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu mat and my body, Dane, my knees don't work like these young guys. And I'm 60 years old and I want to choke this fool out in front of me. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I can't stand losing. Okay. I hate losing more than not winning. Do you understand the difference about that? You understand what I'm saying? I
Hmm.
can't stand losing. I can handle not winning, but I can't lose. So, you don't tap me, I don't tap you. It's not my favorite, but hey, you know, F you, you didn't tap me out. You know what I mean? So, that's just kind of the mindset I have. And I believe I take that to the table, Dane, when you look at weight loss. People that never had weight loss issues, they just they can't. But here's the thing, and I'll speak to the other ones. I've spoken to plenty of people that can't gain weight either. And it's super frustrating for them, right? Michael, right? Michael, my son who's lost 100 pounds, used to be called a fat POS all the time. Now he gets called skinny POS. You skinny piece of shit. I'm like, you just can't win for losing. You know what I mean? So health has to be something that you chase after. And it's super frustrating for me that I can't pivot like I used to, or I can't, I know in my head what chess move I want to do on that mat, and then I can't do it because I can't physically move properly because my knee is so jacked up, or my fake knee only bends so far, and or I got this gut that's hanging out that's in my way. You know what I mean? It's super frustrating. So
Hmm.
don't all I can tell everybody is you don't get discouraged, man, because the only man that you fight or the only woman you fight is the one that you look at in that mirror every day, because that person doesn't lie to you. We lie to ourselves all day. But when you get up in the morning, you look at that person, either A, are you doing everything you can today to change your life, or are you not? And you have to be honest with yourself. And if you have to be honest with yourself, you say, I had to. Okay, why 7 months and no process? Why? Well, because dumbass, you're doing something wrong. You didn't have to change something. And so I had to go making some tweaks. And I made some tweaks. And all of a sudden I see it start to go on the downfall. Don't give up. That's all I can say. You stay consistent because your health, it didn't take us 6-7 months to get this fat. It took a lifetime to be like this. And we want it all gone in 12 months. Hey, listen, you're losing 10 pounds a month, bro. That's 120 pounds a year. And when I first lost 115 pounds, that was about an 8-pound weight loss a month. And that doesn't sound like much, right? But if you see how much 8 pounds of fat is, it's brutal. You know what I mean? So that's just my 2 cents as far as that journey goes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I mean, that's significant. I first of all, I appreciate how vulnerable you have allowed yourself to be, talking to whoever's listening. I think, quite honestly, this is probably the most inspiring thing that we could talk about today, because there are people that just it's their mindset that they just can't wrap their head around it to make the change. And so, hearing your story and hearing some of your tips and your experience, I think is what's going to really put people to the next level. So thanks for sharing that. Let's
Hmm.
let's get to John, because he asked us this at the very beginning. And I think for most of you that are watching now or will watch later, you may have kind of an idea of Mr. Cox's history. And I posted his bio. You started in 1983, I believe it was, with Mr. Ichikawa. You started martial arts because your brother started martial arts. He came home. He grabbed you in a bear hug, or you grabbed him in a bear hug, and he popped you in the face, and you're like, I'm doing that, right? I mean, that's how the story goes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it goes.
Just like, you don't like to lose, right? So so
I
so
do
there's
not like to lose. No.
so there's that. So without going into the entire history and from the beginning all the way to
Hmm.
the end, because I mean, man, we could do a whole separate interview just based on that. But John Viverka, who will be a guest on the show pretty soon here, wants to know a funny or exciting martial arts story that we have together.
Well, so just so you know, John, I told you before that Jay was holding for my very first my breaking tournament. He was the one holding my boards for me when I was doing that. Now, if you watch that video, and I have the whole video, if you watch it, that's where I was breaking wood in a floating board, and I did all kinds of
Mhm.
stuff. But if you really watch it, uh, when you see Jay holding for me, I went down and broke some tiles that day. And when I came down with this downward elbow and broke the tiles, I hit my funny bone so hard that my right arm was not working anymore. So if you watch the rest of that, I did it all left handed. So my elbow that Jay's holding for me and all that kind of stuff, that was all done left handed that day because I just jacked my right hand that day. That was a funny one. But Jay probably has some stories. Jay's fourth degree test, I don't know which one it was. Was it fourth or third that you had to fight us,
Which
Jay? Or was
Oh,
that Brian?
that was my second degree test. That was the worst fight of my entire life, where I had to fight you and Brian Nan at the same time. Brian held me while you punched me. That wasn't funny at all. It was the worst. Um, yeah, I just remember, I still to this day, it's so funny. Every time I come down to train on Friday, and we're getting ready to work, for some reason, every time, like the De Soto and Lassen school is Chatsworth to me still, because
Hmm.
that's where I came to teach with you. And dude, I mean, I can remember getting beat up so much, so often, but I got a lot tougher. I think there's that. Tournaments, the Long Beach Internationals, getting thrown on a concrete floor. Um, Again, not a funny story, but one that I remember. Probably why I have headaches still. Um,
Yeah, I don't know if those guys know that it was you, Bo DeRocher and Nathan Carlin. I was competing in the internationals that year, and you're right, man. I was pile driving you guys down, and what you guys, I don't know what to tell you, man. Thanks for doing all that for me back in those days. I just thought it was part of what we do. You know what I mean? I mean, I was getting slammed by Ichikawa the same way, so I really, it is just what we did. We didn't have all these nice Swain mats back in the day. Come on, okay,
no.
and uh, so that was just, I don't know, John. That was just probably some of the funniest ones. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know. Did we ever have a street fight together or not, Jay? Was that you or was that
No,
Brian?
no, you and Brian had all the
No,
you guys.
okay.
I heard a lot of really good stories, but I was by the time I came around, and I was a young teenager. I remember actually the first couple times that I went out with you guys. Like, we go to dinner, we go hang out after fight night or classes. I mean, here I am, just this young kid that literally knows nothing but thinks I know everything. And just listening. Conrad's on here. If he's on here still, I can remember so many times just hanging out with you guys and going, what am I doing here? Like, how did, because you guys were the ones that, you and Conrad, Brian Nan, David Starachi, all these instructors and black belts that I looked up to as a young kid, because I started at 10 years old. I was 10 years old the first time I ever saw you, and I'm just like, oh my God, right? And and then I'm a teenager hanging out. You guys are inviting me to go places or go to tournaments, and I'm like, it just doesn't. It just, how did I get here? And now I look back at some of the times that I've done that for my instructors, or my students.
Yeah.
It's just, and I did pay it forward, by the way. All those times that you threw me around, my brother probably has neck and back issues from all the times that I threw him around.
Yeah, well, it's funny, John. If you want to know, like, see, so Conrad is him and I went up the ranks together, and him and I were often partners on testing. And I think I speak about this, Jay. You remember how long would we spend with our one-step partners and make sure that we were pinpoint accurate? And
Hmm.
I just don't see that same thing today. Like, we would spend hours off the mat after hours at that studio working on our one steps and making sure everything is ready to rock and roll that day.
Hmm.
And Conrad and I was probably in that studio with Brian Nan until 10, 11 o'clock at night, sometimes after classes, just to work on our testing material for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, it was a different, different mindset altogether. How we did one steps, the way we did one steps before, where we wanted to make them look good. We wanted them to be, that it was a performance. We would
Mm-hmm.
perform. It wasn't like what we do in self defense now, where it could look ugly and dirty, but it's
Right.
effective, right? It just, different, two totally different things. I mean, I had fun making up those one steps. That was,
Yeah.
and that's actually, when it came down to it, one of the reasons that I was excited to go and train at your school was that you always had that edge on the self defense and the sparring. Because I mean, I sucked. I was terrible at fighting as a black belt. But by the time I got to second degree black belt and training with you, it really changed my fighting style altogether. And and then of course, here we are, Krav Maga. Krav Maga totally,
Mm-hmm.
changed our self defense and what we do now. But yeah, those were
Yeah.
really good times. Those were good
Yeah, it was
times.
a super good time. So that would be a whole show, John. I mean, these guys will remember stuff that I did, and I'll remember stuff that they did for sure. Um, you know what I mean? We
Of
we
course,
know we of course you do, Brandon.
GQ is on.
Yeah, GQ's on. You need to get punched in the face, Brandon, and ugly your ass up a little bit.
Oh gosh. Well, we're I mean, an hour has flown by, and
Mm-hmm.
I still have probably another hour that we could go on. But guys, if
Uh-huh.
you're watching right now, still quite a few people. Any questions that you want us to address, anything at all, I'll give you about a minute to punch those in the comments. But while you guys are thinking of any other questions, it's at the end of the interview, my time to remind you why I asked you to be on the show. As a young teenager who, again, thought that I knew everything, and even to this day, at 47 years old, there's things and times that you remind me. Just on this last Krav Maga pretest, I wasn't going to do it. I just
Yeah.
I didn't. It wasn't that I didn't have an interest. I quite honestly didn't feel ready or prepared. And you're like, step up. If you're
Mhm.
not ready, get ready. And you've done that quite often throughout my life and reminded me of a lot of things. And you've given me confidence in a way that maybe I didn't get, elsewhere. There were things, other coaches, other instructors that I had, that it was just a different relationship. Our relationship has gone from, uh, a young kid looking up to an instructor, black belt, to now I consider, one of my good friends and mentors. You know, there's probably five people. My dad, Mike Metzger, a couple others, and yourself, that have probably had the greatest impact on my martial arts career in my life. So, thanks for taking me in at a second degree black belt and giving me a chance, because like Conrad did. I I don't know where I would be teaching wise, because a lot of what we do in our school came from Chatsworth Karate. You know, the
Mhm.
commands that we use, even the student creed, even though it's not the same, it it reminds me of the Mr. Warrior Club,
Mhm.
Pledge of Allegiance,
Yeah.
black belt pre-testing, striping, all that stuff. But again, just opportunities. If it wasn't for you, I may have never found Maya, right? I mean, I was running my business like by the seat of my pants, didn't really have any systems. And you said, "Hey, go check this thing out in Vegas. I think you'll really like it." And as much as you like to remind me how good I am at kissing ass, I still learned a lot. I still learned a lot and did pretty good with it. And
Well, I
and here
say
we are.
those things. I say those things not because it's not something I would do well. You know what I mean? But to watch you flourish, I may do well now because I'm a lot older. You know what I mean? But you have a well balance about yourself that you can balance. You know, between things. I'm too much. Yeah, you're right about that, Brian. Uh, I just can't really. Um, I couldn't at that time. So watching you, would have I enjoyed being up in front of a group of people like that and doing that? Yeah, of course I did. I did the same thing. I did what you did. I think you won it one year and I won it the other as far as our billing company goes. Remember they had this little
Hmm.
contest and I know I won that one and then I think you did the next one and won that one and
Hmm.
so being able to do that, but you're just as inspirational there, Jay, as anybody else. Watching you and your wife, tackle things together and make a life for yourself and watch your children be your number one thing. That's always been something fun to watch as far as that goes. And it's I don't know, it's flattery to watch. You guys take not everything I did is from Mark Cox either. Terry Brumley is responsible for a lot of things I just wouldn't know. And Maya, I did learn a lot from there. I learned a lot that when we think we're God's gift on the mat because we can do things on the mat, but man, what's the use of doing it if we can't keep our doors open and
Hmm.
service our community? And that's just what I think it is. So it's been good though.
Cool. Well,
All
hey,
right.
I'll turn it over to you now and just
Mm-hmm.
motivational minute. Talk to the people that are watching. A couple people that are watching, but uh,
Yeah.
leave everybody with your final thoughts.
Well, I think you're wearing that shirt that says 75 hard. We didn't get into it too much on us being able to do that and what that talks about. But 75 hard and extreme ownership are two things that I think, number one, people lack is extreme ownership and follow through. A no holds bar follow through. I have a security team at my church, and they have no idea what commitment means. There's three guys out of a group of 12 that are super committed and do what they're supposed to do and take ownership on what they do. The other ones just kind of flake out, right? So when I went through 75 hard, I had to ask myself, okay, what does this mean? Two workouts, reading and stuff like that. And not everybody's watching you, so you have to have some kind of integrity about yourself. Do you have integrity? That's the number one thing. We all say we have it. We all say we teach it, but do we really have integrity? Do we have enough integrity to say, hey, I made a mistake. I'm sorry? Do we have enough integrity to say, I failed at that, and I have to start over? That's the first thing. Then I read the book Extreme Ownership and what that means from Jocko. And do I take extreme ownership in things? And so I have to look back as a young man. Did I take extreme ownership back as a young man? No, because that's why I got mad at bill collectors every time they called. I'd be chewing their ass out by, why are you calling me? Well, it wasn't their fault I didn't pay my bill back then. That was my fault. What would the conversation look like if I just said, there's nothing I can do about it right now? It's my fault and it is what it is. What does that look like for our students to come to us and say, hey, there's no excuse for my behavior and there's no
Hmm.
excuse for this. I don't have an excuse. Okay? That's taking ownership of something. And I think that in life, today's life, we just don't do that. We just don't take extreme ownership. And once you do, I can't tell you how freeing it is that either you're going to find out that, hey man, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay not to be woke. Okay. It's it's how are we supposed to be, how are my children today going to be held accountable for what they did as a child, back back in the things, or they said the wrong word, or they used the wrong racial slur, or whatever. How can we not grow? I'm not the same man at 60 as I was at 20, because at 20 years old, I'll pull you out of the car and bounce your head right off the freaking hood. That's my anger ish. That's where that's where I was. Today it's just a little bit different, and I have to take ownership in what my past looked like, and this is where I'm at now. And I think if any of our students can do anything for themselves, is to take an honest look at myself, whether it's weight loss, whether it's being a martial artist. Do I make excuses, or do I make it happen? That's it. You can't have both. You can't have make things happen and have excuses. You just can't. And so I ask all the time. When you've, I think that's why a lot of times you guys see I'm on your case. You know why I'm on your case, Jay? Because you mean something to me. Okay. If I didn't give a shit, I wouldn't say nothing to you. You know what I mean? Anybody knows me knows this. So, when you tell me that you're not going to do something, but you're telling your students to do it, you have to take some extreme ownership there and say, I can't do that. Now, does that suck sometimes? Yeah, that's part of what sucks. But you know what? That's part of being a leader. That's why you can't have leaders all the time. You got a bunch of followers and you got a handful of leaders. So if you're going to be a leader, then lead, and lead with extreme ownership. Be the example. Be the one that's out in front doing it, pulling your team along. Okay? All right? Not just telling them what to do, showing them what to do. And I just think that that's where studio owners and whatever, I listen, man, we work out every Friday, right? We've got close friends. I'm not bringing names up here, but you know as well as I do, we got people that make more excuses than make time. And then when we lay in our deathbed, what are we going to look back? What is my kids going to look at me for? Hey, man, my dad was a man of his word. I can tell you that. My dad had integrity, and he took ownership of what he did right, and he took ownership of what he did wrong. That's how I want to leave a legacy. Does it really matter what car I'm driving at that point? It doesn't. So I think that's how I think I want to leave, and that's what 75 Hard did for me, and that's what reading these books did for me.
Well, on that note, the extreme ownership has been it is a game changer. I mean, you're responsible for you, and and the 75 hard is definitely not for. It could be for everybody, but it's not for everybody, because
Mm-mm.
some people are just going to say, well, I'll change this or I'll do this, but
Right.
won't do that. Well, if you're not doing it, then you're not doing it. It's fine. You can do something else. But, the reading, I think it's what we feed ourselves to that fuels us. And I mean, the reading and the videos that we're watching. I mean, are we watching TikTok videos of people doing stupid shit, or are we watching and listening to Jocko or David Goggins or someone that's motivating us? And sometimes we just don't like to hear what we don't want to know,
That's
right?
correct.
And it's hard. So anyway, well, I'll end on that, and just
Okay.
I mean, wow, a great interview today. I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I know that we'll do this again, because I think it's my turn next, right? We'll have
Yeah,
to
I
get on the
got you
real
down,
talk.
dude. We'll do it again, and you'll be on the firing end. I'll put you in the hot seat.
Oh boy, that'll be interesting. Well, hey guys, thank you everybody for watching. Just a
Mhm.
quick update. I did book some new guests coming up. Just want to remind you. So, taking a look at next week, who we got next week? We got Melody Johnson, and then the creator of the Skills program, Skills for Kids, and then we have Herb Perez, 1992 gold medalist in the Olympics in Taekwondo. We got Dwayne Spires, and so many more guys. So tune in every week. I'm here. We got Alan Belcher and Bill Clark as well coming up. So those will be some really good ones.
Yeah, those
Um,
sound good.
every Monday, 12 o'clock, we're right here. Master Motivation. Make sure to go check out at 9 a.m. All right, 9 a.m. on Mondays. You got Real Talk with Mr. Cox.
Yes, 9 a.m.
So you got
Mondays.
go hit him up on
All right.
Instagram and his YouTube channel. Thank you guys all for watching. And Mr. Cox, I'll call you in a
Okay.
bit.
All
Thank
right,
you,
sir.
sir. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Have a good day, guys. Bye bye.
All right, guys. Make it a great week.